What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDoWorkHereLady. This story's called Yelled At by a Customer at Work. This happened to me in March of this year, just as the lockdown started and many stores had started having special shopping hours for elderly and high-risk customers. I worked at a grocery store on the overnight stock crew, and my shift ended at the same time the special hours started. I would frequently pick up items I needed at the end of my shift before heading home. On this particular morning, we had finally gotten a shipment of toilet paper and cleaning wipes in. I picked up a 12-pack of the cheapest toilet paper in the store and a canister of Clorox wipes for my mom, who is high risk. I was not wearing my black work polo because I was 7 months pregnant and it didn't fit, so I was allowed to wear a plain black t-shirt instead. I picked up a few food items and headed for the register. I ended up in line behind an older woman. She said very pointedly to the cashier, who is a friend of mine, that we needed to be more strict on the elderly and high-risk guidelines. She looked straight at me as she said this. She said we needed to have a guard at the doors to make sure no one was coming in during the special hours except those that actually needed to shop at those times. At our store, it was from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. every day. She also said that if the store lets other people in to shop, they should make sure that they don't buy the essentials that other people need. Looking at the toilet paper and Clorox wipes in my hands. Now, my coworker is an elderly woman, and she's not shy. She's a spitfire, and she'll tell you what she thinks and doesn't give two craps about what you think. She looks straight at the woman and says, "There is a limit on essential items. You can't buy 2 packs of toilet paper." The customer had 2 of the biggest packs of toilet paper we sold. We're talking 18 rolls. The woman snapped at her with a,
"Fine, whatever, but I'm not coming in here if you're gonna keep letting other people in during the special hours. I want to speak to a manager."
Bet you didn't see that coming. My coworker calls the manager on duty, which happens to be my manager on the overnight crew. He comes up and this woman goes off, yelling about how we're letting regular people shop during the special hours, how the cashier was rude and was limiting her, etc. Full Karen. My manager looks at me and can see that I'm irritated. He looked at the customer and straight up said, "I would like for you to leave." She got angry and asked why she should be the one to leave when she was clearly following the rules of the shopping hours and I was not. He said, and I'll never forget this for the rest of my life, "This customer you are harassing is my best employee. She just finished working a 9-hour shift to fill these shelves so that you could come in to buy your essentials. She is picking up a few items after her shift, and on top of that, you're harassing a pregnant woman who is considered high risk, and she has as much of a right to shop during these hours as you do. She is exhausted and she's scared because of the pandemic, but she comes in every night, works extra hours, and busts her ass so people like you can come in and talk down to her. You can leave now, and you're welcome to stay out." And he walked away. She tried to stammer an apology at me and asked about my baby, when I was due, what I was having, etc. when the loss prevention guy showed up to escort her out. I ignored her and picked up one of her packs of toilet paper instead of the 12-pack I had grabbed. I checked out my items and was on my way out when loss prevention took her picture and made notes that she was banned from the store for 30 days for harassing an employee. Sorry for the long post. That's funny. She screwed around and she found out, guys. Alright, this story's called Boss Doesn't Recognize His Own Employee When She Walks Into Work in a Dress. This is my mother-in-law's story, not mine, but it was very IDoWorkHereLady worthy. My mother-in-law is a short, fat, busty woman in her 50s and works in security. Yes, she looks like a sweet older lady, but she is tough and thorough and will threaten to place you under arrest. Her lead supervisor is old, senile, and gets in his own way. Despite a high turnover rate due to not the best management skills, as trying to become an armed guard is as easy as pulling teeth, my mother-in-law has endured, as this has been her first job in 26 years after raising her son as a stay-at-home mom in extreme poverty. People have rage quit due to how Brian tends to upset and confuse and change schedules without notice, literally telling his security officers to call him corporal in front of police officers and to watch Red Dawn as training. Also, you can get written up if you alert him your coworker left their gun in plain sight in a locked car. As a courtesy, you can't make this up. Despite this, she endures, as it's far better than the alternative. Anyway, names changed for obvious reasons. It's the cast. Jane, my mother-in-law.
Brian, elderly supervisor.
Bob, other supervisor. As this was told to me, it's not word for word, but a rough summary as to what happened. Jane was wearing a yellow and red flower dress, running errands, and had to stop by security home office to do something. Not sure what, but she figured she was out and thought it was best to get whatever she needed to do out of the way. She goes and finds Bob, one of the primary supervisors that managed most operations. He greets Jane and likes my mother-in-law because of the work he had seen out on sites. They move further into the office and Brian comes up, sees Bob, then sees Jane. Brian tells Jane,
Ma'am, you can't be in here. This office is closed.
Bob speaks up and tells Brian, no, it's alright, she's with me. Brian's eyebrows wiggle and says,
Oh, she's with you, huh?
like, what the fuck? Hey, they actually wrote it how I say it. Everyone was confused. My mother-in-law and Bob then laugh. It was clear a while ago that Brian has never been all too observant despite working in security. Despite talking face-to-face with her numerous times in her year with the company, Brian didn't recognize his own employee outside her uniform. Evidently, by this encounter, Jane was in clear disguise and took on the identity of a strange woman walking into a security office like a wandering idiot who happened to be holding a casual conversation with his co-supervisor. Brian, this is Jane. It finally clicked.
Oh, hey.
Anyway, it's a bit anticlimactic, but everyone thought it was funny, including, I think, Brian. It just worries me a bit more as it makes me wonder what else goes over this guy's head. Thanks for reading. You know what? That just says something, you know? A mother-in-law cleans up nice, right? I'd prefer that over the alternative, which is that guy who works in security as a supervisor would not notice that. Alright, this story's called She Does Work Here, Lady. She just doesn't get paid. Howdy, folks. Long-time lurker here, but I've only enjoyed this sub via the Red Wheel YouTube videos until now. Also, probably Daily Dose of Reddit, they just forgot to mention it. Probably because it's just so heavily implied, you know what I'm saying? While it's not the typical retail horror story, I thought you might enjoy it here anyway. I'm a retired veteran and have been for more than 20 years, making this story just about 3 decades old. Usual disclaimers for the passage of time and my failing memory, but I'll do my best. Here's the cast. Impatience Karen, a cranky military spouse, records lady, a sweet older woman who worked in the office part-time, and me. That's me, OP. Sorry if this setup gets too long. I'm in civilian government service these days, but back then, I was a technical sergeant in the healthcare administration field. I had been assigned to the base hospital's outpatient records office as the non-commissioned officer in charge not long before these events transpired, and we were short-staffed due to Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So we were busy. This was long before the days of electronic medical records. These were good old-fashioned colored folders, chock full of all your appointment notes and test results, all filed on shelves. Lots and lots of shelves. What with active duty personnel, their family members, and local retirees and their spouses, there were about 44,000 of them. If you scheduled an appointment more than 24 to 48 hours in advance, we would pull your record the night before and send it to your provider's clinic. Otherwise, you had to come see us yourself to sign out your record before you could be seen. It was a weekday, early to mid-morning, I think, and we had a long line of patients at our service window. I was on duty along along with 2 to 3 junior enlisted workers, and Records Lady, a very nice lady. We were dodging each other in the narrow aisles and pulling records as quickly as we could. It wasn't quick enough for impatient Karen though, who Records Lady was helping. I was near the window checking a patient's eligibility when impatient Karen sighed like the air brakes on a bus pulling up to the curb. A moment later, impatient Karen whines.
What is taking so long?
Then,
This is stupid. I can't believe this.
and
What's wrong with her?
waiting in line is rarely fun, and is much less so when you or your children are sick, so I get it. I stepped up and told impatient Karen that I'd check on her record and be right with her. I found Records Lady in the aisles, looking at the shelves with confused frustration, and I understood the delay. Records Lady had suffered a traumatic brain injury some years before, and while she didn't have any major deficits or disabilities, she occasionally had trouble processing numbers. Our records were organized using a terminal digit system, based on the first 2 digits of the last 4 digits of the service member's social security number. This could be challenge enough for Records Lady if she wasn't in a rush. Being under the pressure of a foul-tempered Karen didn't help. I suggested she take a break in the back, found the record, and took it to the service window. Here you go, ma'am. I'm sorry about the wait.
Finally! You need to get rid of that woman! I can't believe she actually gets paid to work here!
Each exclamation point was accompanied by an increase in volume and venom.
I should complain to your commander!
I wondered how in the hell this woman could not see and understand the differences between Records Lady's uniform and mine. I was wearing BDU's, or battle dress uniform, and she was wearing street clothes with an apron. Mine was woodland camo, and her apron was white with some red trim, maybe pink too, and a conspicuous red cross smack dab in the middle of it, as in the American Red Cross. After handing impatient Karen her record, I understand your frustration, and again, I'm sorry for the wait. But while she, Records Lady, does work here, she's a Red Cross volunteer. She doesn't get paid for helping you, not one dime. However, I'll forward your concerns to my commander, and I'll send a copy to your husband's commander as well, as a professional courtesy, of course. She went pale, realizing that she may have just gotten her husband into trouble. She drank her big steaming cup of silver and walked the walk of shame to her appointment without another word. Just as I promised, I wrote up the incident for my commander, who contacted impatient Karen's husband's commanding officer, clued in my first sergeant, and CC'd the hospital patient advocate just in case. Never heard anything further. Not long after that, I worked with the Red Cross coordinator to find Records Lady another volunteer position, one where she wouldn't be subjected to that kind of treatment, something that also better suited her talents. She was a really nice, generous lady, and I didn't want to see her volunteer efforts wasted thanks to some self-centered Karen's abusiveness. Note, as a general rule, military spouses are awesome, smart, strong, capable, and they hold the fort down on their own while their other half is deployed halfway around the world. But, as with any walk of life, there are bad apples. Entitled, pompous, demanding, and sometimes think they wear their spouse's rank. Shame walk, lady. Shame walk. Oh my god, it makes me so happy that, people will get in trouble if a military spouse tries to tout their spouse's rank to get something done, to intimidate someone or something. I really appreciate that fact, because situations like these sucks to suck. This story's called You're Paying for My Time. Just saying, this did not happen to me, but to my father. This story happened in the last century. I never got told when exactly. My father worked for a company, and he helped people who had trouble with their software, or at least something technical. I can't remember exactly. In East Germany, where this story takes place, it was common that when you worked with your customers, you'd wear formal clothes, or at least at my father's job. One day, one of their clients, a lawyer, had problems and called the company. He needed help quickly, but it was the worst time for cars or to take the bus, so my father offered to drive there because he had and still has a motorcycle. On this day, he was working without customer contact, so he wore rather informal clothes. When he arrived at the lawyer's workplace, he still wore his motorcycle jacket and held his helmet. He walked in, and before he could say a word, the lady who was the secretary told him to wait and that the boss was busy. My father is a very peaceful man with no intention to get into any kind of conflict, so he just waited for 20 minutes. Then he spoke up and said, "I really understand that your boss is busy, but I think I should inform you that I work for the company and you are paying me for my time, so I can absolutely wait. Every minute I sit here means more money for me." She then realized that this troubled-looking man was the technician and not a client. I wasn't there, but my father told me that the look on her face was priceless. He immediately got access to the computer and the lady even offered him tea. It happened years before I was born, but if I had a time machine, I would go to see this. That's a really nice story. What a kind guy your father is. But I'm just saying personally, I'm sure this has a lot of sentimental value for a memory that isn't even yours. But I think I would use a time machine for something much more significant, like the release date of Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny. I could go back there and convince everyone to go watch it and buy as many tickets as I personally can so that it blows up in the box office and just the world is overall a better place. Who knows, we probably wouldn't even be in a pandemic right now had that movie done well. Don't ask me how I arrived to that conclusion, but a lot of thought went into it, and I can outline exactly why it would prevent it, but I choose not to for the sake of time. Alright, this story is called Entitled Mother is Really My Stepmom. Oh no, my butt fell off and slapped the ground. When I was around 19, I started my own business. Being a shop owner was cool for a while. Then a woman came in and said she needed a cake. For context, my shop is not a cake shop. Thinking she was confused, I told her the cake store is down the street. She said,
"No, I know it's here."
I insisted she was making a mistake and it's where I told you it was. Then she left in a huff and a puff. Sometime later, I received an angry call from my father saying that woman was his wife and she came in to take the cake for his birthday that I made him. I laughed so hard. There's my butt again. I fell off and slapped the ground because I got cake. Cake, but entitled mom doesn't. Alright, this story is called Employee Thinks I'm Only a Customer Who Wanted to Help. This is my first post on Reddit, so here we go. It's been a week since I started working at a big electronics store in the US as a sales specialist. I just finished my training and still didn't get the uniform. I went to my department and started walking around in the area. I saw another employee trying to move monitors and put them on shelves. I offered to help, I'm assuming. She reluctantly declined. I waited for about 10 seconds and asked her again. She finally realized that I was a new hire and I helped her stock all the products. That's funny. It's a simple story. I want to know her reaction though. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.